DJ Cliff exclusive, sir. Keep on recording, oh, man. I love you, oh, man. I see you, oh, Jim, man. But I take you to buy, oh, man. I get come, oh, man. Oh, yellow, no, my eye. Keep on recording, oh, man. I love you, oh, man. I see you, oh, Jim, man. But I take you to buy, oh, man. I get come, oh, man. Oh, yellow, no, my eye. Official on the timeline. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are. Thank you once again for joining us today to this session of the Voice of Hope Media. And today we are going to be giving it a voice. And today we have quite an audience and a host and guest today that we're going to discuss with us some of the issues that you have, the questions that you've been dealing with. And this today is going to be the rape. The topic today is rape and the responsibility, the roles being played by the churches in order to help us with this one. And today we are blessed to have some guest speakers who are going to share with us with the experience that they've had being clergies within the Roman Catholic Church. And today I'm joined with my co-host, Clarice, who is going to also lead us in introducing some of our hosts, our guests today.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Let's Give It a Voice here at the Voice of Hope Media. Like Festus said, I am Clarice, so I am AC, the host today, and this is the third episode of a three-part series on rape. So the first one, we looked into some of the causes of rape, the African mentality about rape. Mm-hmm. Then the second episode, we looked at the psychological, the emotional, or the physical effects of rape on the individual or on the survivor and the rest of the family or the community at large. So today we are going to look into rape, and we are targeting the church because we realize that the church is a bit conspicuously silent as far as this issue is concerned. But in actual fact, they are not really silent. There's a lot of things that the church is doing, but people still have questions. And so we are going to bring in our special guest today, and we have Father Innocent. Then we have Father Joe. Welcome once more, and thanks for honoring our invite. So we are going to dive in directly to our guest speakers and let them introduce themselves. So you're welcome, and over to you, Father Innocent. You're welcome once more. Can you hear us, Father Innocent?
Thank you. Yes. Yes, I can get you very well.
Okay. So would you just a quick introduction about yourself, and then we continue from there.
Yeah, I said I can get you very well, and happy to be online.
Okay.
These men.
Oh, gosh.
They're having issues.
Yes. Sorry for the technical hitch, guys. And so we are going to move on to Father Joe. Welcome once more to our show. This is the second time you are a guest. So welcome, but we will still need your introduction.
Thank you very much, Clarice and Festus. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. 5 on 5.
Great. Thanks. So it's good to be once again here with you at studio. And I'm Father Joe King. I'm Cameroonian and Mill Hill missionary based in East Africa, and I'm actually the regional superior for Mill Hill missionaries in East Africa, Kenya, Uganda. And I'm based in Uganda at the moment at the parish called St. Karoli Luangambiko. And it's nice to be here with my brother, my twin, my colleague, Innocent.
Hello,
and I welcome all our viewers on board. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And yes, he's your brother, he's your twin, and we've come a long way, haven't we? So, Father Innocent, over to you for introduction.
Yes, I'm Innocent, working in Douala, of course, Mill Hill Missionaries. And at the moment, I'm beginning a parish called St. Raphael the Archangel Parish in Bonaberi. This is our first year, and I'm happy to be online with great people. I'm sure that our little sharing will help a lot of people who are viewing and who will listen to us after this. It's my pleasure to meet Festus, I think.
Thank you.
Madam.
Thank you. Thank you once more.
Joe, my friend, of course, partners in crime. I'm very sure we will share our only to make our only contribution to make sure that we make the world a better place. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much, and I do appreciate the time you've sacrificed today to be on our show. Yes, it's been a long journey with all of us, and it's really good to be on this platform, given that we haven't seen each other for a very long time. But at least thanks to technology, we can see each other virtually.
Yeah.
So we want to appreciate everyone who's watching, and if you are watching and you have questions, just pop them down there for our clergy to be able to answer if possible. If they cannot answer the questions while the show is live, they'll obviously come back to them later. And for your information, we are broadcasting live on Facebook and also live on our YouTube channel. You are watching this show live on the Voice of Hope Media. At the Voice of Hope Media, we educate, we empower, we inspire, and then we give hope to those who are facing challenging and complex life issues, including special educational needs. So the Voice of Hope Media is a safe space where individuals are encouraged to share their experiences, to share their stories, knowing that they will be heard and they will not be judged or stigmatized. So we are the leading voice of hope and empowerment. So when we put out this topic on rape for the clergy to talk about, we had a few reactions from people, both on WhatsApp and also on Facebook. And so I would like to read one of them, then you read the other one, right? Which I sent to you. Yeah. So one of our brothers who is also he's studying to become a priest. So he sent in his contribution, which I would also like to read to you guys. So he said, looking at the church, we see that okay. So he said that looking at the church, we see that the church has a lot of responsibilities when it comes to the issue of rape and in bringing out moral values. But the question is, how can the church effectively carry out the work of bringing out moral values if we as individuals do not understand that we are part of the church? The church is not the building, but the individual members of the community that make up the church. So if we leave everything onto the church to bring out moral values or standards as their duty, and when we say the church, many people in our contemporary society now, they are looking and pointing out only to the men in white, which he said in quotes, are leaders, forgetting to know that for us to effect the change, we must start from our individual selves. And then when we come together, we form that church, the one body that we call the church. The question now is, what is the role of the society in order to understand that they are two members of the church? How can the society also be helped in order to understand that to deal with the issue of rape, they are also very much involved? There are rules on how this and how these rules can be put into practice by those concerned. So he is Chibe Maxelinus, who he sent in his contribution, and he also says, as we look up to the church, let us educate the society to know that each and every one of us is part of the church and has a duty towards the moral values. So in a nutshell, the church is not that building. The church is not made up of the reverend sisters or the reverend fathers or the men in white or the ladies in white. The church is made up of each and every one of us. And so we had another contribution from another person.
Yes, and it goes, and to throw more light on the topic about the church, it is not that, even though today we are blessed to have two reverend fathers, when we talk about the church, it's not just the Roman Catholic Church. It's just that we are blessed to have people who are willing to share their experiences with us. So when we talk about the church, it goes across the board. So it's not just a responsibility of the Roman Catholic Church. We just have them as guests today. So we have somebody who sent this one, and he said that, please also ask about the media reports. And we know that the media could either paint an image that is blue, white, blue, or whatever. And sometimes they get it right, they don't always get it wrong. So he says, please also ask about the media reports. We know that sadly, lots of abuse have happened in the church and been covered up. There's a movie called Spotlight, which handles this issue. Also, cases in Ireland, England, and I think in Cameroon lately, where a priest was reported to have abused kids. Even Pope Francis and maybe his predecessor acknowledged the matter. But how do we make this a reality? What's the chain of reporting incidents and accountability to the church? In quote, the people. So again, going to the same point, the church is not the building, the people. Many have lost confidence and even left the faith because of trauma related to abuse by religious authority. And he goes further, or she goes further to say, now, I would like to see the church act in capital letters on this more. We need more transparency and accountability. So this is like the same issue coming out, but now he is suggesting they need more transparency on the side of the church and accountability, or basically, from what I could tell, is they just want to know what the church is doing regarding rape and other issues in the society. Today, we're just throwing the spotlight on rape. We know the church does more in that area. But I think the viewers today, and even those who are not online at the moment, who will catch up later, their issue and concern is to do with what the church is doing.
Yeah, and truly, yes, we really need to know what the church is doing as far as this is concerned. And I happen to have done a little bit of research, and I read about the Catechism of the Catholic Church. It's amazing what they say about rape, and I was like, yes, I was really happy about that. But rape has become a major issue worldwide, and the stigma attached to this issue has resulted in confusion of the true facts about rape. The Catholic Church agrees with the idea that in order to end today's culture of rape, each person must do their part to educate others about the truth. Yes, and college-age kids and young adults at every stage deserve the right to an education about the meaning of sexual assault and why it is wrong. So they must be taught the immense dignity of man. So for us to start our show, we would just like to get a general overview on what you guys, forget about the fact that you are a priest. Just give us maybe a 1 minute or a few seconds of general overview of what you think about rape before we really go into the church. And we start with Father Joe. Sorry.
Thank you very much. I think we are dealing with a crisis, and what you have rightfully and with our normal understanding of rape as being the forceful, engagement in sexual activity with somebody who hasn't consented. And as you have already viewed it during your last sessions, with its implications, the physical, the emotional, the psychological, and the spiritual effects it has on the individual. And mainly women have been the greatest victims.
Yes.
I would say. Children, young girls below the ages of consent. And it's something so rampant around the world, in our communities, in our families, that has been covered up at some points. But sadly, that is the reality.
Yeah.
How do you have a sexual relation with somebody against their consent Why would you have to force yourself? So that's a reality around us, and we must admit. So that understanding that rape, that in the pain with which I feel it, the pain with which we look at it, us as outsiders,
Yeah.
what more of the victims? So that my understanding of it, and before even coming to what the church says, that forcible violation of that sexual intimacy of another person with the injury that it causes to that person is a reality around us, and we must admit that. I mean, those will be my few opening words on that issue, with the understanding that most people already understand what rape is, but really to open our minds that this is a reality around us, and we must face it and tackle it head on.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Father Innocent. Just a general overview on what you think about rape before we continue.
Thank you, Joe, for your insight. For me, it's something which has been there since the beginning of the world. Probably is the awareness which it differs from one
Yeah.
generation to another. And so for me, creating more awareness and trying to see if we can help people come out of it. Generally, I also know that a good number of rapists are sick people who need to be helped, who need to be transformed. They are psychologically sick themselves. So, as you guys rightly said, it's a combined effort, all of us putting our hands together to talk about it freely and to be able to target it freely. I think one of the biggest thing which has happened with rape throughout history is the cover up and the shame. So we cover up, and the shame which is associated with it makes people not to talk freely about it. So a show like this gives an opportunity for people to be able to come up and talk about it. But in terms of the role of the church, I think the church has always been there, and the rape has always been there as well. So it is our generation to look for a way to deal with it better than the previous generations. Um, so for me, it's something to talk about it. It's an open floor. It's something which all of us can bring in opinions and bring in ideas, and we see how we can help ourselves. Because the ill of rape doesn't only affect the individuals which have been raped, but also affects the running of the society. Because once you have a community with people who are psychologically affected, then you yourself becomes affected. When you have a church with one, two, three, or four who have been raped, you yourself you don't feel at ease because those people in turn do not exhibit the normal lifestyle which they were supposed to do. So it's an ill that affects the whole society. But as I said, it's something which has been there for me, reading through history. But we have to talk about it and see how we can come up with solutions.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Thank you. Yes, there's a necessity to talk about these issues where most often people think they should be buried under the carpet. These taboo topics, or these emotional, sensitive, or sad, or shameful topics. There is a necessity to talk about them, to create awareness, to educate people. And like you said, the rape has always been in existence, the same as the church has always been. Unfortunately, not everyone knows the role or the stand of the church as far as rape is concerned. So there are people out there who really wish to know. And as someone said, the church constitutes everyone. The church is the people and not the building or the priests or the reverend sisters. So what are we all doing? Well, we need to know that moral. Is it the moral value, or what are the moral values? What are those things that the church teach? That the church teaches against rape. We know that rape is a sin. We know that it is a crime punishable by law, and it's a sin, like I've said. But there are many people out there who are still ignorant as far as the church is concerned. They may have mentioned about rape in the Bible, but not everyone reads the Bible. So many people have interpretations of what the Bible says about so many. So you guys are here today to enlighten us, to teach us, to educate us, to open our minds, to open our eyes and our ears to hear, to listen, and also to learn from anyone who hasn't known before. So we carry on with the questions if you start with the first one.
Yes. So now we thank you so much for sharing and then just giving us an overview about what you think about on the topic of rape. So now let's go straight to the question. The first one is, as individuals, now just looking at it as individuals, we know you're reverend fathers. I mean, like just like individuals, what do you all think about this point in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, the topic of rape? What do you think about that?
Let me read.
And this is to quote where it mentions in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, point 2356. That is that rape is the possible omission of the sexual intimacy of another person, without injury to justice and charity. Rape deeply wounds the respect, freedom, and physical and moral integrity to which every person has a right. It causes grave damage that can mark the victim for life. It is always an intricately evil act. Graver still is the rape of children committed by parents against the court or those responsible for the education of the children entrusted to them. So that's what it says in the Catechism of the Catholic Church. That is point 2356. So my question is in line with that. What do you think about that point in the Roman Catholic Church? So I'll start with Father Joe, please.
Okay, thank you, Festus. You know, when you look at the Catechism of the Catholic Church, it touches every aspect of human life.
Okay.
Yes.
And in relation to the will of God for human beings. And it is built also on the law of God and the law when God created man, as we say, he created us, as we read in the scriptures, he created us in his image and likeness.
Yes.
And male and female, he created them to be bonded by love. And it is that love of man and woman which reflects the love of God and also the love of Christ for his church. And anything that goes against love goes against God. And that is why even in the commandment, in the commandments that God gives us, there is the sixth commandment which says, thou shalt not commit adultery. So the Catechism of the Church builds on these aspects of faith, both written and those handed down. And so flowing on that sixth commandment, that thou shalt not commit adultery, we look at the church handles all the different aspects that touch that. And rape becomes one of the serious cases. And looking throughout the Bible, we see that there has been situations of rape in scriptures. Because even like you read Genesis, you will see that even the daughter of Jacob was raped. Yeah. And then now, because of such things, you go to Deuteronomy, they give what do you call punishment for rape. If you are raped in the field, if a man rapes a woman in the field, the man has to marry the woman. He has to pay bride price. Or if you are raped by force, that is Deuteronomy from chapter 22, from verse 23 up to 29. They give different aspects. If you are raped in the city, both of you will have to be killed because the woman did not shout. If you are raped where only the man will be killed. So they give different aspects. No, there's the one that the man will be forced to marry the woman. There is the aspect where the man will be stoned to death. And there's also the aspect where both of them will be stoned to death, depending on where they were raped. So, following all these things throughout our history of faith, the church stands up to say, no, rape cannot be part of a Christian community. And that is why it goes into the details to give everything about it, the wounds it creates, the respect, the freedom, physical, moral integrity of the person. Because what is the glory of God is man fully alive. And as Innocent said, once one person is affected, the whole community is affected.
Yeah.
And that's why I really liked the fact that Chibe mentioned our brother who made a contribution. He asked, who is the church? Who is the church? Because we are looking at a church who are the Christians, and each member is a part of the whole.
Yeah.
So the Catechism comes to defend each person, the individual integrity of each person. So when it explains everything about rape, it shows the gravity of what it is and what we need to do. And that's why even moving from the Catechism, if you go to canon law, and especially canon 1395, it also talks about that sexual the rape, in a way that it has to be punished in all its forms. So meaning the life of each member of the church must be protected. And that is why that particular plan add more. But looking at that history and throughout faith and throughout scriptures, with all those instances, the church's magisterium, that is the teaching authority of the church, comes out with that part of the document to enlighten Christians about the gravity of that and that we have to stand against that at all costs.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for that contribution, Father Joe. And then to actually say that rape, should be punished. And now over to you, Father Innocent. Based on what it says in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, point 2356, as an individual, what do you think about this point in the Catechism of the Catholic Church?
Just like many other documents which the church has written, they are amazing, and I mean they point to the truth. But we always have this dualism between what is written and what we proclaim and what we live. And that's why in my opening statement I say it should be a combined effort of all of us coming together. Like Joe has rightly stated, the different aspect of the church talking about rape, the Bible itself. But we must come up strongly to proclaim it to the common man, to effect it to the common man. And I think it's high time now for us to move from the books of the church and to live it. One of the things which I know and which we must face it is the fact that when they talk about the church, I mean it's everybody. Our mothers in the church with great faith have been one of the people who have really been part of this ill, because they really used to cover up rape, because in the sense, oh, we don't want disgrace on this family, oh, you spoil our Christian name. And so the church has given those directives about rape. How can we empower now the church to become the voice against rape? Because the church talks about rape, but the church itself, which is the people of God, are not empowered to talk about it. I know a number of situations which I talk to girls and they says, oh, I talk to my mother, and my mother says, shh, keep quiet, don't talk so that two people should hear. And she's a faithful Christian. She comes for communion every day and she's doing her best. So the church documents are beautiful. That there's no doubt about it. They are right, they are correct. Now, for me, I think for a conference like this, we should be talking about how do we put these documents and this reality into reality and into practice. If you will ask my opinion, that will be where I'll be driving to. Because if it's church documents, we have these,
Very clear.
We're very intelligent people. Like myself and Joe, we are very intelligent. But now to put
well, I can see
practice, it's where we should be heading now.
I can see the intelligence actually exuding when you guys are talking. So it's brilliant to have you two on the platform, because we're going to
I'm just joking.
Huh?
I'm just joking. I'm not intelligent. I'm just joking. I'm a village priest.
No, I get the fun. I like the sense of humor because it lightens up with the whole thing. Now, moving forward, trying to navigate, because now we have people who struggle with this dilemma, because while we fully agree with the Catholic Church teaching against abortion, now, on the other hand, we also would like to know if what are the moral teachings surrounding rape of a woman and the treatment of rape within the church. Because when we think about the Roman Catholic Church, especially, we would clearly note the fact that they stand strongly against abortion. Now, about rape, it's not so much as pronounced, even though it's written in the documents of the church. So now we would like to also know what are some of the moral teachings regarding the rape of a woman, if it's that part of it, and also the treatment of rape, or maybe the rapist within the church. So I'll start with Father Innocent before I'll go with Father Joe.
I always want Joe to talk because he's my brain.
Look at you. Now, I will steal the answers from you now.
No, I think that there's a lot that has been said in terms of the moral teaching, in terms of rape, and it also has to do. You have to excuse me, by the way. Our new parish doesn't have a lot of space, so we all join together. I don't have an office, so let me just rush again a bit inside into the room. Maybe in my sitting room, it might be dark a little bit. Sorry about that. I know this is online. God will not forgive me for doing all this. It's a little bit dark inside.
But that's okay.
What I was saying is the moral teaching of the church is very clear. That rape is a sin that should be punishable. And the way the church teaches it is that if it is an adult, for example, that adult should follow the proceedings of the law. So if it's a priest, that priest should go to prison. So the church recognizes that rape is not only a moral evil, but it's also a civil crime. So that's how serious it is. It's not like the other sins where you can go for reconciliation and the reconciliation is done and they says, okay, bless you, you go. When it has to do with rape, it's not only a sin, but it's a civil crime. So the church is very strong on that, in the sense that once you find somebody who has raped a child, that person has to follow all the proceedings of the law. So the church recognizes that that person has to be punished, because the church doesn't have structures, prisons to punish people in such. They only have to hand you back to the civil authorities.
Okay. Get you. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for clarifying that. Now, on to you, Father Joe. I hope by now you've had some time to listen, maybe to pick some ideas and add on what you have to deal with the wise. So now, on this one, what's your take? What's your take on this one now, and what do you think about
it? The church, in addition to what Innocent has said, it's out to protect the weak and the minority as well within their communities. And what does rape do? You kind of, that's exploitation. You exploit somebody. You reduce that person's dignity. And that is already against the freedom of that person. Yes. So, by the fact that the church is out also to protect the weak, the sick, it has to uphold the fact that rape will always remain criminal and sinful. And those are the two important things which Innocent has pointed out. Being criminal, being sinful. Sinful, maybe the church may forgive. or the individual who has been offended will forgive. We will forgive the sin, but the law will have to take its course. As to whether that happens, that is another question. Has it happened? Yes, it has happened. Has it not happened? Many times it has not happened because of the cover-up. And many times it is not only the leaders who cover up, also the community covers up. Because you are looking at who is affected. If my daughter comes out to say she was raped, maybe other suitors will not come to her again because they will see her, no, she was raped. And if she was raped by a priest or a seminarian, they will say, no, but you are going to bring scandal to the church. They will look at our family. So you cover up also the priest or the seminarian or something like that. So at the end of the day, who is to blame? All of us take responsibility. It will not only be the church authority, me, the priest, or the bishop, but everybody involved. Yet, that individual needs to be protected. That individual needs healing. And then sometimes even when you go civil, they say, bring proof. And then the shame to go to the hospital and bring proof and on all that. You know, it makes people just to chicken out and to bear that trauma, go through the pain and everything, which doesn't help. It doesn't help the individual. It doesn't help the community. And that's why it continues to grow on the ground and around us. And it has become a pandemic. It has become a crisis. So definitely the church as a whole stands against that. And we must face that fact. We must bring it out. Christians also must know that they have a responsibility to expose situations like that. So it is collective, I would say.
Yeah, just to add a little bit, the church also says we must protect children and vulnerable adults. So the church puts responsibility on who has the power, the control at that point in time. So there's no negotiation in terms of I was seduced into or I was confused into. As long as you are in the position of power, you're in the position of authority, and you have to do that with a minor or a vulnerable adult, the church puts all the responsibility on you. Unlike in situations where people say, how did that girl dress before you went to the parish? Oh, maybe because you're putting on a short skirt. No, it has nothing to do with a short skirt. It has nothing to do with somebody being naked. When you are a person of authority, you take full responsibility.
That's brilliant.
And then also, if you are a person in an advantage position, like take for instance, if I am helping girls to pay their school fees, they may be above 18, but if I use that advantage that I'm helping them, I'm helping their families to have sexual relations with them,
then to help them again,
that is abuse. Yes, that is abuse, and that needs to be punished. So I take full responsibility for that.
Brilliant. So in addition to the question, we fully understand what the Catholic Church says about abortion. Yes, how does the Catholic Church support a woman if she becomes pregnant due to rape? What are the steps that are being taken? What do you do? How do you help her? To hear? Like Innocent?
Yeah. Innocent.
I think the Catholic, the church will only advise for maximum support in terms of counseling, in terms of journeying with that person. I think there's no other way in which we can do it apart from counseling and journeying with that person for the person to be able to accept. You know, our God is a God who can write straight in crooked lines. So not to abandon that person, to try as much as possible to support that person. And it will be a lifelong journey sometimes for some people to bear the pain of seeing somebody who comes out as a fruit of rape. But at the end of the day, life in itself is sacred. Life in itself has ultimate value. there's no other value that supersedes the value to life. So we have to support those people, and we do support them. Not that we have to, we do support them every day in our ministry, encourage them, and we've seen a lot of them grow out of it, and that child has become the source of their joy and happiness. So all what we have to do now is to put structures, psychological structures, counseling structures that can journey with such people. The unfortunate thing, especially for us who are in Africa, is that we do not have those structures of counseling, of psychological development, of seminars to help those people. But if not, the church is very clear that we need to support those people psychologically and even physically if we have the means to help them.
Okay. What about you, Father Joe? What's your view?
Very clear. The church's stand on abortion is very clear. They don't debate on abortion because of the preciousness of life, you know. And the times the church can discuss abortion, it comes only to a very critical point when both the life of the mother and the daughter and the baby are at risk. Then they give the discretion to the doctor, But
Okay.
generally, the church will never, for any reason, advocate for the abortion of a child, even conceived through rape, because that they are not responsible for their being there.
Yeah.
And us, we have a responsibility to protect that life, which might have come into us through a very painful situation, or through rape. I mean, as it's our case here. But
Yeah.
we still got the responsibility to protect that life. However, as a church, and as Innocent has rightly put, the individuals need a lot of support.
Yep.
That's all. And that's why Innocent talks about structures to be put in place. And when they are not there, that is why the whole effect and the whole impact is felt so much, because we lack the structures and to help victims of rape, and especially that results to pregnancies.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Another thing, okay.
Yeah, you go on, carry on.
What I was saying is that the help actually extends to the mother and to the unborn child, and even when the child is born, because sometimes when children are born out of rape, if the environment is not friendly, they also grow up, with stigmatization. This was a child of rape, or that was a child of rape. So the whole thing, it becomes spiral. So if the community doesn't help, that is the kind of effects we continue also to have even after the birth of a child. And then because the mother has to learn also to love that child, which in some cases it doesn't actually happen, because they live with the guilt.
Yeah. Unfortunately, those are some of the side effects. So those are some of the traumatic effects that individuals go through when they've been faced with rape, or when they've had the experience of rape, and when it results into a child, into a baby. As far as the Catholic doctrine teaches, is that child has to be given the chance to live, because no child has ever asked to be born under certain circumstances. So the child has the right to life. So going on to our next question is, I'll come to you, for Father Joe. I saw this question online. Does the church teach that it is better to die than to be raped? Why this question comes up is it a little bit relates to Saint Maria Goretti's story, who she died because she didn't give in. She was killed by the pedophile, or by the person who was trying to rape her, who had tried to rape her several times, and he never succeeded. And Maria always said, it is sinful, I cannot do it. And then and I think at some point she said she would prefer to die than to allow him to rape her, and then he killed her in a very bad manner. So there are some people out there who do not understand why at a very young age, she was 12 when she was killed, I think. There are some schools of thought who do not seem to believe or who do not agree with the fact that she was honored because she did not give in to that sinful act. So some people seem to think that that in that case, the church actually teaches that you should better die than to allow yourself to be raped. So what do you think? How can we put this like I actually made a comment today. I actually made a comment today that a rapist will only overpower me than for me to willingly give myself in to be raped because I'm afraid to die or I'm afraid to be killed. Well, one of us will have to be more powerful, or he uses his weapon to kill me, or a knife or something. So let's hear what you have to say, Father Joe.
Let me compare that to a robber entering your house, and you have wealth, you have money, and that money is your life, or you have your wealth, or you have your family, and that family is your life. And the robber wants to take away that wealth or take away that family. And then you offer yourself, instead of taking that, you better take my life. In the church, we have what we call martyrdom. Yeah. Instead of me because like somebody's virginity or somebody's purity is their wealth, is their everything. Their integrity is their everything. Yeah. And then instead of them giving into rape, they'll prefer to be killed. They'll prefer to suffer martyrdom rather than offer what they hold so dear to them. Yeah. So the church will accept the martyrdom of people. Self-martyrdom. But in cases of that, it doesn't mean that the church is supporting that people die because of rape. No. Because it's like we're dealing with a demon. The guy standing in front of you to rape you is a demon. That's a devil. Just like a robber standing in front of you, ready to shoot you if you do not give them the money or something like that. The church upholds life in all its forms, and it should not be taken away for any reason. Nobody wants to die, and nobody freely offers themselves just to die for the sake of dying. St. Paul even tells us that it's difficult for somebody to die for other people, even for a good man, even to die for another good man, not to talk of somebody dying for a sinner. But the story of Saint Maria Goretti is a story of faith. We have grown up in families of faith where you have been taught this is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is bad, this is good and this is evil. Do the good, avoid the evil. And sometimes to avoid the evil, you have to go to the extent of even surrendering your life. And that is why if you look at the life of if you look at the church, we talk about martyrs. Why did they give themselves? Will you call that murder? No. They offered themselves because of something higher, a higher value, a higher virtue, a promise of eternal life. They offered themselves. And that's why many of them are bound in the church. Because instead of you soiling my integrity, I would rather you kill me. And people who are not even Christians have done that. Yeah. They have sacrificed themselves in defense of the defenseless. Yes, in defense of the innocent, in defense of integrity, of justice. Others have been killed, not because they were actually involved, but because they offered themselves as sacrificial lambs so that others may be saved. So I think that I will see it in that light. And that's what comes with women. when they stand up to say, no, instead of you raping me, you rather kill me, because you're dealing with a demon. So it's about integrity. I wouldn't say the church allows people to be killed because of rape. No, it's about integrity, it's about virtue, and it's about faith that brings us through that. That's what I would say.
That's brilliant. And so to everyone out there, we really have to value our purity, right?
Yeah.
Because maybe some survivors or some people who advocate on rape and give advice. One of the things I discovered is they are very quick at asking girls, asking young girls to move about with condoms in their pocket. So that you're in a situation of you should hand it over. So to me, it feels like what they are afraid of at first is afraid of contracting an illness rather than afraid of their bodies their that preciousness
They're
of
being defiled. Their body's been defiled somehow.
yes, but they are not actually valuing that. What they think first is I may get pregnant or I may contract HIV or other STDs. What about your moral teachings? What about you valuing yourself as that vessel, as that body of Christ that you carry about? So I think when advocating, people really have to bring this up as well. If I'm talking to young girls today or to anyone, especially the young ones who are still virgins, who have to hold that as their treasure. I think one of the things I should be telling them that you should fight for your purity, because that's something you should hold or value. It's your gold, and not just telling them have this whole condom, put condoms in your bag so that you should be able to hand it over. It's like telling them, yeah, just go ahead, just finish with me and let me go. So what do you think, Father Innocent?
I'm sorry. I really have to apologize for the inconveniences. As I said, we're a very young parish and we are trying to mix a lot of things.
Okay.
At the moment, we don't have a house, so we're just mixing everything together. So sorry for all the noise in the background.
Yeah.
What I think is the statement you've made in many ways is very correct from the church's perspective, in the sense that, as Joe said, you must fight for your own, to preserve your dignity. You don't just have to let go. But it's not yet all. That dignity remains with you even after anything happens to you.
Yeah.
And I really encourage young girls to read St. Josephine Bakita, her story. She's a big inspiration to my life in terms of the dignity of a woman. And that I know, in a sense, when your body has been touched, that also can play with your dignity. But our dignity is innate. It doesn't come from outside, and nobody from outside can take it. Only God can take it away from us. In as much as we are preventing those who might fall in that temptation of being raped, we're also talking to those who have fallen into that situation to know that they still are of infinite value. And Josephine Bakita gives a very good understanding of how to come out of it, and that they should talk about it freely, and so that they can get support in order for them to move out of it.
Okay.
But you see, as I said in my opening statement, we all are responsible in making people feel bad about rape, because the mother in the village will start asking, how did you dress before he raped you, rather than why did he rape you? In a sense, that question itself is a very wrong question. You don't rape somebody because the person was naked. You rape that person because in your head, you have put it in your head that you wanted to rape that person. So it is what we call a paradigm shift in terms of our thoughts, in terms of the way we think. And if we do not do that, then we will be dancing around the same circle, talking about it, talking about condoms, talking about the pregnancy after that. We just need a shift from our head that the rapist is the one who has the problem, not the lady and the way she dressed. And how can we do to identify these rapists in our communities?
Okay. That's good. Yeah, thank you so much. The next one.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you for that contribution. Just to our viewers and listeners at this moment in time, it's not like we are putting so much pressure on the victim. It's just because we are just highlighting some of the things that they tend to go through and how the society and the church will have to work hand in glove to make sure that they are also catered for and that the dignity is not lost. There is always life and hope after that. So now talking about the perpetrators and moving forward with that. And what are some of the steps that the church would take or is taking to ensure that the parents and godparents of Christian children, now quote unquote, those who end up becoming perpetrators, because we cannot act naive that those people, most of or some of those perpetrators have never been to the church. Some have been, most have been. So what are some of the, the steps, the procedures that the church takes in order to educate both the perpetrators, would be perpetrators, or even the victims, teach them how to maintain their Christian values in order not to get involved or find themselves exposed to such ill. So I'll go with Father Joe. Father Innocent can be able to then.
Okay, thank you, Festus. I think by now it is common knowledge throughout the world that the church is wounded.
Mm-hmm.
The church is wounded because of the many abuses that have already happened in the church. Some that have been exposed, some that have not been exposed. And some that happened 50, 60 years back, 40, and are still happening. And that is a reality we are living in. Remember what we were saying, quoting the Bible, quoting the Catechism of the Catholic Church, quoting canon law about what is supposed to be done in matters of that. Crime must be punished.
Yeah.
Sin may be forgiven, depending on the repentance of the sinner.
Yeah.
And that's why in the church today, we have child protection policies all over. I do not know whether it has reached all parts of Africa, but I can only speak for myself, for the church here, and also us as a congregation. We have child protection policies that where we work, the children, the women, the vulnerable adults, wherever we are safe from things like rape. That we are able to identify, that the way we interact with children, the way we interact with women and vulnerable adults, that they are safe around us. You who are in Europe, you can see how it is. Nowadays, the sacristies in Europe have been separated. The priest is vesting from a different sacristy. The altar servers are vesting from a different sacristy.
Yeah.
They only meet at the altar like strangers, which has really tampered with the relationship, with the way life is supposed to be in a community, in a family setting like a church. We can't even greet.
Yeah.
You can't even greet a child now. They say, no, you have abused them. So things like that has raised a lot, and the church has come out very clearly to put things of rape, because they have been, when you talk about abuse, rape is part of it, and before we even go to child abuse and things like that.
Yeah.
And so the abuses in church actually gave rise to, even after the cover up, so the church to wake up and say, no, we have to do something as an institution. And while the church is doing something as an institution, creating these child protection policies, wherever you work, you have to ensure that women, vulnerable adults, children are safe, because you take full responsibility of it. That is how we work nowadays, and I think that's one of the steps that the church has taken to counter that, also to make that people are safe. are comfortable where we are. It brings in a bit of activity in the network keeps breaking in our relationship, but that is something has to be done.
Yeah.
Then there is another aspect which comes as a challenge, and I will talk about it from my point of view of pastoral work. You work in communities where child marriage is allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Like I worked among the Karamojongs.
Yeah.
You rape a child of 12 years, 10 years, you marry them. It is allowed. Some Muslim communities, they give out children at 10, 12, 13. Even
Yeah.
some of our Christian communities in the remote areas of Africa where we work, and then the church finds that as a challenge because the church is saying this is wrong, but the community is saying this is right. So there is even conflicts there. And it takes a lot of education, a lot of sensitization, a lot of catechesis, even for the community to understand that what they are doing is actually wrong. So, and that's also part of the challenge. In the midst of the policies, everybody has to get involved. All stakeholders, they have to get involved. The church leaders, the Christians themselves, the community, even go back to our traditional beliefs and try to see what is it that we need to correct. Because yes, the church might have policies. If the church brings its policies and the traditional policies remain, who is helped? Nobody is helped. If the church brings politics and families keep, because sometimes when that happens, the family, a poor family, will exchange the girl for money. That has happened in many cases around us here.
Yeah.
A child is raped, and then they just go behind and negotiate, get a few cows or get some money, and the whole thing is covered. So even if you want to bring it up as a church, how far can you go? So those are some of the challenges. We may have policies, but those are some of the challenges that we really we might face. But I assure you, the church is up and doing about this whole issue right now. And you can see it around you in Europe. Here in Africa, it is picking up. In my community, we have those policies. And in every program that we get involved in.
Wow.
Right.
That's
Well.
brilliant. Make mention of that.
Right. Okay. Just before Father Innocent answers to say something on this topic or question, we've just had a contribution coming in from Eric Moore. He says that first of all, he says that a great contribution from the man of God. But he wishes to know how the priests operate among cultures and societies that use rape as a form of courtship and means to get married to the girl of their choice. I think it's something that Father Joe just touched a little bit. But now coming to Father Innocent, is it the same thing you experience? I know you're new in your parish area now, but you've been in Cameroon for some time. Is it a similar experience you encounter with certain cultures, societies? And what is your take or the take of the church?
I think what Joe has said, we probably have been to the same communities. I'm in the Karamojong community. But now, just for Cameroon, I want to talk about my own little experience. This is my second year here. I want to talk about what we call negotiated rape. I happen to teach in a secondary school last year, and it was very common that children in Form 1, Form 2, Form 3 will kind of negotiate against their will, but for a benefit, either for marks or for goodies, and they'll give themselves against their wish. And I call that negotiated rape, because in normal circumstances, given all what they need to have, they will not go in such a relationship. And the society is very quiet about it. And even when I talked about it in church, everyone was looking at me like, what is Father saying? These kind of topics should not be brought up. So we have a lot to do as a community, especially in the African community. We have a lot to do in terms of creating the awareness, letting people know the psychological damages we do to our children when we take part in this negotiated rape. Negotiated rape in the sense that we know what is happening, we know what has happened, and we kind of just buried it under the table.
Yes.
And so it's a big challenge because if we as the people of God, we talk about it and people find, qu'est-ce qu'il a dit? Qu'est-ce qu'il dit? It doesn't bother. It's not a big deal. We know these things, it happens. It becomes frustrating from the point of view of priests because we are seeing something which we know the effects, and the parents and the community sees it very differently.
Yeah.
So a lot of sensitization, a lot of talking, and that's why I'll need you and I'll need Clarice and yourself, Festus, to do something, to talk to your fellow lay people. I don't like to use the word lay people, but talk to your fellow lay people because they are the ones who drive it. You have more force than we do. A priest is one, but I think when the community comes together and says, we want to stop this ill, it will stop. Remember the cases of abuses in Europe, they are not coming up because priests stood up to say, let them stop. No, the people, the church was the one who said, enough is enough. So let us not abscond our responsibilities and say the priest in quotes will help us because they are in authority. No. They say power is taken, it's not given. So if you want to really stand and fight against rape and abuse, then you need to push us to the wall so that we ourselves we can stand up and we talk about it together. Thank you.
Wow, well, that's amazing. Thank you guys for being so honest and being transparent with the answers and being real and relatable to what the society, and to make sure that we all understand that it's not an issue where we need to abscond from it. The society needs to also play a role, and then the priest is just maybe one person or two, but we are many as a people, and when we see it, we should not cover it up. We should try to speak it up, seek for help, go forward with it, and the perpetrators being brought forward to face justice. So thank you, Father Joe and Father Innocent, for your contribution so far, and even those online sending in your comments and contributions. Please keep sending them in. We'll pick on those we can at the moment. If not, we'll get to them even after the show. Now, just to say, we go to some of the last points and to round up the show. In your opinion, as priests and as members of a society and community, what do you think is the best form of punishment for a rapist? I will go with Father Joe first.
you know, I've lived with people who say a rapist, his third leg should be cut off. He should cut off his third leg.
If your hand causes you to sin, you cut it off.
So some people have quoted the scripture for me. So if your hand makes you to sin, cut it off. So if his third leg makes him to sin, he should cut it off. But that would be going back to the old way, an eye for an eye,
a tooth for a tooth.
A tooth for a tooth. But from the church's point of view, as I said, all life is precious. Even the life of a rapist is precious. You can't believe it, but it's true. And his life has to be protected. So, what does the law of the land say?
Yeah.
Because we have to follow what the civil laws say about rapists. Are they to be imprisoned? Let them be imprisoned. Maximum, yeah. And that is what the church follows. The church hasn't got a legal court to say no. A rapist has to be. In other communities, they are killed. Scripture gave different ways of how to deal with them, but the church as an institution say, let us follow the civil law, and also help.
On that point, though,
in Pidgin,
following the civil law and following what the law says, and in all of that, but as a church, as a parish, if you happen to know of a case where there is a rapist, a perpetrator, and he's in church, does the church have a role, a way to maybe exclude them? Maybe, I don't know, something with their membership, communion, I don't know. Is there something that the church gets involved with?
Let me say something in Pidgin. In Pidgin, we read scripture, we say, God no one may bad money die, but make it change in fashion and make it stop. I don't know if my viewers understand that, but God doesn't want a sinner to die, but that he may repent, change his life, and live. And so the church encourages. That's why the church preaches about conversion, metanoia, and a change of life, change of way. That is the much the church can do at this time. And if there are proofs of this, then kind of say a perpetual rapist in a community, I think with the church having a proof, they can help with the civil authorities to say, no, we have a situation here which is not good to the community. Then they can hand over. But as a church, the most important thing will be to rehabilitate that person if he is one of the community members. If he lives in the community and they know this is the situation, then the church looks for a way to rehabilitate, to try to bring him back. Because Innocent mentioned something. That person is sick. That person needs help. Yes, we do not know what is going on in there. What is he suffering from? What are the effects? What prompts him to behave like that? That is what we need actually to be looking at if we have to redeem the community. Because you might take that man sent to prison without helping him. The day he comes out of prison, he does the same thing and he goes back. So how have we helped? So we have to help the sinner to convert. That will be my and that is what the church tries to do. That's my point.
So thank you so much for that, for answering that probing question. Now I'm going to Father Innocent. Now on the same question, on the same issue, my take is I'm going to try to play quote unquote the devil's advocate, right? I'm going to try to play a little thing now. Now I don't know if the same treatment is given to somebody who commits an abortion and a rapist within the church. Is it the same treatment they get, or is one more of you taking a life, or the other is you being a victim of something done to you, or is it treated the same? Like a rapist, somebody who was committed an abortion. How do you treat them within the church?
An abortionist is both of them are dealing with life. I mean, when you rape somebody, you're destroying that person's life. I think what has happened is the Pope Francis has become very compassionate in terms of his approach to all these things. Yeah. And like Joe says, compassion is the big word. Compassion is the big word. What I want to say about rapists is this. A good number of rapists, statistics have shown that a good number of rapists, they themselves have been raped.
Abused.
Or they have a psychological problem. Yes, they've been abused. And so if we do not solve the problem, we are solving the consequence instead. And so a lot of those people actually need counseling, rehabilitation. Unfortunately, in the society, when they start this kind of a habit, we instead label them, name them, and push them apart. And so the only thing they find themselves pleasure in doing is to keep on raping. So it's a whole process. From the church's perspective, I think it will be a very long process of counseling, of talking, of dialoguing, and seeing what is the real problem of this person. A lot of them are sick people. And so if we can help them. For me, abortion, I really do not like the whole spirit of judgment. That is my thing. Personally, I don't like the spirit of judgment, because now it's for me now to judge whether the person who has committed abortion is worse than the person who has raped. No. I think before God himself can judge all of us. But what the church is doing is to try to bring back these people back into the right path. I think it's more important than knowing whose sin is higher. My role will be to help the abortionist to come back to the right path, not to do it again. To help the rapist not to rape again. Whether whose sin is bigger or less, I really would not want to get into that. Thank you very much.
Thank you
I want
so
to
much.
rush away. I want to sign out. There are a lot of people disturbing around here. Sorry.
Okay,
thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your time.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you. Yeah, bye-bye. Oh, gosh. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Father Joe. Thank you, Father Innocent, for your input today, for your time. I mean, I've learned quite a lot. And I do want to believe that everyone out there has equally learned. If at some point you think you still have a question which you could have asked our Reverend Fathers, please pop the questions here, and they will be able to answer your questions later on. But you've been watching Let's Give the Voice edition of the Voice of Hope Media with myself, AC, and Festus 4. So we've been your hosts today, and this is actually the last part of the 3-part series on rape.
On rape.
Yeah. So on the 31st of October, we are still going to have another edition of rape, which will involve just the teenagers, those in their 20s. So we want to hear what they are saying about rape. We want to know what they are actively doing to protect themselves and to help others from being raped. It's been a three long week journey. It looks like it was just yesterday we started this 3-part series, but it's been a journey of learning, and so many people have been empowered, they've been inspired, and also we've given them hope. We've made people know that you can speak up, you can speak out, and you have to know that you will be heard, you will not be judged, you will not be stigmatized, and this is a safe space for everyone. So our aim is to educate, to empower, inspire, and to give hope to everyone who has faced any challenging or complex life issues in their lives, including special educational needs. So stay tuned, stay blessed. Love you always, and see you again next week at 5 p.m. UK time. Thank you so much, Father, and have a good evening. Bye-bye.
All right, goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank
Nice evening. Goodbye.
Bye.